Thank you. Good afternoon, Mrs. Smith. I also would like to thank you for uh, making a warm welcome to me to your home. And I would also like to acknowledge the presence, thank you, the presence of your family members who are actually here with us this afternoon. And I thank you. I also would like to take this opportunity, Mrs. Smith, to also sincerely thank you for being able to engage me, to um, uh, be able to make myself available this afternoon to try to uh, explain to you uh, the process of analyzing a conflict. On this occasion, I understand that you've been having a problem within the community that has persisted for quite a while. But it is in this regard that I offer my services, and thank you once again for the engagement. First of all, in my brief presentation or discussions this afternoon, I will be talking about a number of models, and basically be concentrating on the means to better understand, for you to better understand and analyze a conflict in this regard, which I believe is of paramount importance at this point in time, due to the long-standing dispute that you had with the Joneses, as mentioned earlier. At the outset, in cases of conflict analysis and resolution, there are a number of models which I've just mentioned. There are a number of models that practitioners often refer to. The first one, there are actually 8 of them. The first one being the circle of conflict. There's another one that is referred to as the triangle of satisfaction. There's another one which is the boundary model. I can be able to explain this to you later on, but I'm just at the outset, I'm just mentioning that we have what's called the boundary model, the interests and rights, interests or rights or power model, and then you have the dynamics of trust model. There's another one referred to as the dimensions model. There's one called social style models, and I think there's the last one being the moving model. These are the various types of models that are being used in conflict resolution and analysis. But for your purposes, for our purposes this afternoon, we're actually looking at the model which is referred to as the circle of conflict. And that particular model is a model that I have chosen in this regard, looking at the history of the problem that you've had that has been outstanding for quite a while. And I would say at the outset that it is vitally important for you to pay attention to this particular model, which I will be presenting to you. Before I actually start to do the actual model, I would like to hand to you. There's a couple of you here, but I would have this just hand this all to. It's for you, Mr. Smith, and the next one is to Ms. Hans to maybe share them. All right. In the event that you have any questions during the course of my presentation to you this afternoon, you can be able to stop me and maybe ask a question, pose a question, and I can be able to explain further, or otherwise maybe wait until the end of my presentation, because it's a brief presentation and we can have discussions thereafter. So it'll be most appropriate that we are able to you allow me to do the presentation first, and then we can have that discussion session after my presentation. So, but I am not stopping you from making any interjections whilst in the process of making my presentation. Thank you. All right. In the model that I've chosen, and I wish to highlight in this regard, you will note from the outset that interest, because in this particular case, you had a situation where you have this problem that has persisted within the community and has existed within the community for a very long period of time. Just before I actually go into the dynamics or try and explain to you the different drivers. Let me just at the outset mention that the circle of conflict model is a model that actually diagnoses and categorizes the underlying causes. It categorizes the underlying causes or that exist in a conflict. So therefore, it is important that you have to understand this from the beginning, from the outset. So just having a bit of benefit of understanding the problem that has been there for quite some time, we see this circle of conflict model as the most appropriate one. And in that particular model, we have what is called, there are actually five drivers that exist within this model. The first one being relationship, the second one being values, and then you have a third one called the external or moods driver, and another one called data, and the other one is called structure. And I'll just briefly go through that. In terms of relationships, in a conflict situation, a conflict would arise, and in your case has been in existence for quite a while. Just in order to appreciate the interest and positions that you have, which we all understand, and I understand, is that your family has actually been living in this area for decades. You have a large family that have lived in this area. You have been influential within the community, and you also hold positions of leadership within the community, and you are well known and liked within the community. But in this situation, the five drivers that exist within this case is important for you to understand, because in order to appreciate the problem, the conflict in totality, you have to understand that relationships there are negative friendships that arise. There could be instances of stereotyping. There could be a case where in stereotyping you may say something that is about someone or another party or a person when that person doesn't actually do what you have alleged or what you have stated about that person. It could be the total opposite of what you perceive him to be or perceive him or her to be. There's poor or failed communications in relationships, and also there's negative behaviors in relationships. So that is the first driver that you need to understand. The second driver is that of values, and in values, it basically depends on how you see values. You may have a different set of values as opposed to that of the Joneses. There could be moral, ethical, and religious beliefs that you may have that the Joneses might not have. So you see from your perception and try to understand whether they also have or practice ethics, morals, and religious beliefs within the makeup of their family. So it is important that we understand that. So that's another a driver that is important in this set of conflict. You also have what's called external moods or externals or moods, and this driver is basically a driver that of factors that are not related to the conflict per se, the conflict itself, but it is a case where it is influenced by drug use that determines moods of a person. So you need to really consider how that relates, how this particular driver of externals and moods relates to the conflict in totality. The third one, I'm just looking at the time here, the third one that you need to also understand in order to better appreciate is the driver regarding data. This is a very vital and important factor that you must appreciate, and is identified as the key driver in a conflict, because misinformation or lack of information about another party can lead to further escalation, or not escalation necessarily, but it can lead to further negative assumptions of who that person is or what that person is doing. So that's the other driver that you really need to understand, which is referred to as the data driver. Finally, we have what is called, and if you can just refer to the brief outline that I've made, the fifth structure, the fifth driver is referred to as structure. And when we look at structure, it covers different types and forms of situations in this regard, whether within a workplace or an organization or within the community. So it is a situation where in the conflict model, in the circle of conflict model, there are actually three different types of structures. One being that of limited resources, the second one being that of authority problems, and the third one being organization. But the most appropriate one that I can refer to or may refer to in this regard that is applicable in your case is that of authority problems. In this case, the result is that when people don't have that authority to settle a problem, it is difficult. In your case, you may not necessarily have that authority to settle a problem, although you are an influential person or a leader within the community. The proper authorities, you may not be empowered by regulation or legally to have that authority, but in such a situation, you can be able to refer the problem immediately to the mayor or the police, the local town mayor or the police or authorities that can be able to settle the dispute. So therefore, the five drivers thereof: relationships, values, externals or moods, data, and structures is vitally important in this case. And therefore, I can be able to make a recommendation to you that the most appropriate, apart from the 7 models that I had earlier highlighted to you briefly, the most appropriate one in this case is the circle of conflict model. So therefore, if you would have any specific questions or on any of the points that I've highlighted and that is contained in my outline to you, then I would invite you to make that interjection and those questions to be raised now. Thank you very much for your attention. I will now take any issues or any questions. Thank you.